So I really appreciate you guys joining.
Oh, God, here we go again.
So here we go. Adam's another costume change. He's turning into Sterlo by the looks of it. I want to obviously start here by the gains and the losses. And again, get involved with the comments. We know there's a lot of Para fans out there probably watching this. They've been messaging the page, so they better be watching. So please get involved. There's a lot to talk about. Gains, Morgan Harper, Manly Sea Eagles, Kelma, Tuolagi, Sea Eagles as well. The losses, Jake Arthur, Sea Eagles, Wanga Blake to St. Helens, Nathan Brown released to Manly. They're just waiting to secure that contract. Andrew Davey retired. Josh Hodgson retired. Jack Murchie, Huddersfield. Mitch Rain retired. A couple of notable re-signings. Dejan Arce to 2024. Dylan Brown 2031, but there's so much T's and C's to read about that deal. So let's not get involved with that one. Bryce Cartwright, 2025. Matt Dury, interestingly, because Brad Arthur seemed to hate his guts last year, got an extension to 2025. I don't know how that's even happened. He's probably got around Brad Arthur for that one. We're in Greg, good player and Adam's best mate now after starting last year, is pretty much enemies. 2025.
We're frenemies now.
Jermaine Hopgood 2025, and if I was Parramatta, I'd be getting him in the office once again and extending that to about 2030. I think he's one of the best players coming through in the forwards. Mitch Moses 2028, Will Penasini 2026, Russell 2025, Simonson 2024, and Sevo 2027. Goodness me, I missed that one. I didn't think it was that long we extended him for. Anyway, I kept Jez for last for his team, so he can go first for this one. Let's get the ball rolling. We obviously the other three of us are Para fans, so try not to be too biased, but this one could get heated because I've got some things to say and I'm sure the others do as well. Jez, open it up for us.
I don't care. Next. No, I'm kidding. I think Morgan Harper, what a signing. We love a bit of Morgan Harper. You've done well there.
He's trying banter with that one.
Yeah. He's on the skinny diet as well, apparently, compared to my picture down there. I think you've got rid of a bit of dead weight, as Adam liked to say. So Josh Hodgson, what a signing. Mitch Rain, well done. You retired him out of the game. Congratulations. You've had some good re-signings, though. So Mitch Moses to 28. Well done. That's I would have him in my team any day of the week. I am a big fan of Mitchell Moses. I think I made that quite clear when it became Origin time, how much I enjoyed watching him play. Even as a Red and Blue Knights supporter, love watching Mitch Moses run his business. Wiramu Greg was just funny for the banter between Adam putting him off every week and then he does something great. So it's good to see him. Dylan Brown. So I think we still haven't seen his potential yet, and that's scary. So if he can sort out his garbage and what's been going on, and I know we've got the Para Cave podcast here in the comments, for someone who's dreaming, you shouldn't throw stones in your glass houses there, pal. If he sorts out all of his off-field garbage and decides that he wants to be a very good rugby league player, Dylan Brown's going to be amazing. And I'm really excited to see that happen. But until he can sort out his own life, we might not see that just yet. You forgot one mention. The Eels have joined force with Ned Brockman. Now, Ned Brockman, the bloke that ran all around Australia, is currently running around the world as well. And his brand for chocolate milk, of all things, is going to be on your trainers' jerseys. Now, his motto, I think, is very fitting for Parramatta fans. His motto is, just keep showing up. So when things get tough this year,
if only,
when Greg consistently makes all those mistakes, and when you three are about to tee off on your own club, just remember, just keep showing up, will you? And that's all I've got on the
for
Parramatta.
38 painful years.
Yeah,
well, I'm only 32, but fans have been.
By the way, quick plug: all the Para fans are listening. You can get us on the Talking Para podcast once the season kicks off as well. So make sure you follow that page on Facebook to make sure you tune into those shows. But You mentioned Dylan Brown. I just want to quickly say on Dylan Brown, because I was very boisterous on that podcast, on that show last year about him, and it got quite heated. So it could do the same thing tonight. But I agree with you 100%, Jez. I think he could become the best 5'8" in the game if he wants to be. That's the big question there, if he wants to be, because he obviously got into the trouble that he did. I personally still believe if he was playing, we still would have made finals last year, even though we did have some other injuries. I think that was crucial. So I single-handedly put him for the sole reason we missed out. But look, there was other players that didn't find form at all last year, but just didn't help at all. And if he wants to be demanding the big bucks that he is getting, he needs to make sure he's performing week to week. And he's arguably the best defensive 5'8" already as well. We see how much cover defense he does make. And he's just, honestly, I don't know what it is with him. I don't know if Brad Arthur's caged him up a bit or something, but he's stepping his agility is some of the best in the NRL. Like there's all these other players we talk about. Go and find some highlight packages of him as a youngster and stuff. He is remarkable. Just let him run and let him do that stuff, because he's one of the most dangerous players in the game. Let him run.
But if he's going to run, he can't be a 5'8". I'm sorry, but my biggest criticism of Dylan Brown's game is his game management, and has been for years, and that's where he's got to step it up. And I know we've had the conversation before, we had on the Parramatta one. I think Dylan Brown should go to fullback eventually. But Michael's against says he's going to be sitting here shaking his head, it's going to fall off. But my problem with Dylan is he needs to mature off the field, obviously, but on the field as a player. I remember watching an interview with him a couple of years ago, and it was before he had the breakout year in 2022. And he literally said, Mitch has to direct me around the field. Now, if Mitch is wasting his time directing Dylan around the field, telling him what to do all the time, it shows why Parramatta struggle when Mitchell Moses isn't on the field. And that's where Dylan's got to step up his game management skills. As soon as Dylan steps up his game management, he can take the game, by the scruff of the game when it's on the line, and create those big plays that Mitchell can create. And I'm not talking about the first 10 minutes when he seems to be able to do it. That's when Dylan Brown becomes one of the best 5'8" in the game.
Micka, you're shaking your head then. I'm shaking my head as well, but you go.
Yeah, you don't take the New Zealand 5'8" and move him to a position he's never played before. That's just crazy talk. Unless you have a better 5'8" to put in that position, which we don't.
We may have. You don't know that.
No, but we don't. So
we do.
I think that's crazy talk. I think the problem with Dylan running it at 5'8" is he's always thinking run first, and other teams know that. Like, yes, he's an amazing ball runner, but without the other strings in his bow quite yet, then they always know he's going to run. And he might run, 20 times a game, and he might get through twice, but the other 18 times they see it coming. So I think that's the problem there, and that'll come with maturity. People forget how young he is and how young he started NRL, I guess. That's my thoughts on Dylan Brown. And one more thought. I have one more thought. And it's back to he who we shall not mention. I remember the year before he had 09, he got shot at in the cross. Jared Hayne, he got shot at, and sort of was his wake-up moment. And I don't know, I just reading all the articles and watching Dylan speak, I'm kind of hoping that he's had his wake-up moment now, because as Jeremy said, like, if we see the best of Dylan Brown when he focuses on his footy and wants to be there week in, week out, he could be anything.
Imagine him, Mitch Moses, and then Gutho absolutely firing. You're unstoppable. Like, what could be at Parramatta?
Yeah.
That's the big thing. That's the annoying thing at the moment. It's always a could be. It never seems to happen. And that's the thing that I just want this squad to realize, is that there is still people saying the window's closed or it's closing. No. I feel like it's still there. Like, if they can put it on the park and realize the potential of some of these players, it's still there. And Moses, for mine, will get it to that next level. Like, people have already seen posts. I think he'll feature heavily once again in Origin time, and he's got to that level of a player now, and he really needs to become that at club level. And as Adam sort of mentioned, that full game manager, week in, week out, doing the right kicks and the like, which he has got right most of the time, especially last year. Just, I don't know, we weren't able to capitalize on a lot of it. But Dill Brown, he just needs to realize, both on and off the field, he's a first-grade footballer now. Start taking it seriously, or start second-guessing what you want to do as a career, because he has a huge potential right now to take the next 10 years and become an absolute star of the game that's remembered for years and years after he retires, or he can quickly become one of those juniors that was a has been and what could have been career. So on the losses, I just want to mention Davey Hodgson. I was very critical of them throughout last year. In a way, glad that they've retired because BA loved him and he was always going to pick him whenever there was a chance to pick him. It wasn't what was right for our club, I thought. And now he doesn't get the chance to pick him. So he's sort of his hand's been forced and he has to pick some other players. That leads us into the hooker debate. And boys, I want to get your thoughts on this one. Obviously, he's come out and said Brad Arthur only wants one hooker. It's either going to be Brendan Hands or Joey Lussick. Who's your choice and why?
First of all, Brad Arthur's an idiot for saying that because we learnt last year very early on that you need to carry 2 hookers in this game at Parramatta. Brad Arthur's plan, if he only carries 1 hooker, is to move Gutherson to hooker, which, screws up our backline movement straight away. Or his other plan is to play Hopgood there because he played a bit of juniors at hooker. I don't agree with 1 hooker. If he does go with 1 hooker, he goes with Joey Lussick. But I think it should be Lussick at 9 and Hands at 14. Reason being, Hands can cover more positions.
Arcee's getting the 14. Is that a chance?
But why? What's he going to achieve there?
I don't know. I just think maybe he's trying to spark things up. I don't know.
If you put Hands at 14,
he brings a spark.
He brings a spark in hooker. He can cover half 5'8". And let's not forget, both your half and your 5'8" defensively can play fullback. If your fullback goes down, your fullback can play in the centres quite easily. You've got movement. You can plan for that by having a really good solid 14. The problem Brad Arthur's made is previously he's gone with 4 forwards on the bench, and that's where we completely fuck up. I'm not going to get into concerns yet, but my biggest concern this year is Brad Arthur's approach as a coach.
Get into it. Why not? You started it. That is a concern. That's the hooker. So we may as well keep going.
I put him down as my first coach axed for 24, remember?
You did, and it's a big possibility.
Yeah,
Look,
that's right.
Just looking back at Parramatta last year, it was one of those things of what could have gone wrong did go wrong. Injuries, suspensions. We got on that run of games, and then obviously we lost Reed and Campbell to some stupidity. Obviously when he dropped the knees in the back and stuff like that. Just other things as well, like, round 1 game against Melbourne, not making excuses, but it goes to extra time, and we got screwed. We got screwed with a shit call that they continue to screw up 3 or 4 times throughout the year. The week after, against the Cronulla team, we should have beaten. The week after that against Manly, we got screwed by another call. So it could have been a different start to the year. The point I made is Parramatta missed out on the finals by 1 win. If you look what they went through last year, losing Dylan Brown, a couple of rough things at the start, and a couple of games they threw away, 1 win is nothing. Were they the team they were the year before? No. But the thing I didn't like about Parramatta last year was everything they seemed to learn in 2022, everything they were coached. And we know that obviously Andrew Johns was hanging around Parramatta for quite a while. Everything we saw in Mitchell Moses' game, the kicking the ball, your repeat set, stuff like that, it was gone. There was just no composure and no want to win games. It's like when we needed to win a game, the year before we got ourselves in a position to win a game, we couldn't do it. So my concern is, do we have a good enough game plan? Is Brad Arthur a good enough coach to give us a game plan to go with a consistently changing game that we need? Because in 2022, we changed up in that finals run. We got to a grand final and we shit ourselves because we couldn't go back to what we were playing when we played Penrith before. Last year, it just looked like there was no game plan at time. We went on that run of games by throwing the ball around, having a bit of fun because we were playing for our season every week. And then when it got to playing the good teams, we couldn't defensively match it because we were gassed. So I just don't know if he's evolving and he's one of the top coaches that can actually take us to a grand final.
One thing I want to say on that, last year, I don't blame the referees. I think the players lost it for us. They just had a piss poor approach from the word go. They treated making the grand final as a successful year, and they didn't have the fire that we've seen other teams have in the past when they missed the grand final and wanting to make sure they win it the next year. That's my thing. I thought it was a piss poor mentality from the whole playing group, apart from maybe 2 or 3 individuals who seem to pop up week in, week out. I'm not going to use, if they're sitting there and if I hear any of those sorts of excuses from the playing group early on or Brad Arthur and stuff saying, oh, if a ball bounced differently for this game or a result this way and a referee gave us a whistle, like, I'll give it away. Like, if these guys are seriously not going to take ownership of how they played last year and how they controlled themselves or how they held themselves on and off the field, because there was some stuff that we've heard and stuff, and obviously with Brown and that as well. They just got to pull up their sleeves and realize that this is a group that can do something. It's quickly going to go away. Like if you're going to treat making a grand final and getting flogged by Penrith as a successful year, well done, be that club. But guess what? You're going to quickly become the next Tigers. You're going to quickly become that team that has the next 3, 4, 5 years of just shithousery.
On saying that, so the Broncos are in the same position as you guys leading into this year in terms of they've made the grand final. Penrith put a job on them. I do not see the Broncos.
It's close.
Yeah, well, they beat
them.
I wouldn't say a job.
Oh, well, they beat them. I don't see the Broncos rolling over and going, that was a successful year. Let's live that entitled sort of mindset of, if it doesn't work, then it's not our fault. I see them, and I see them only as their benchmark as making that grand final and winning it.
Yep.
So
the big difference with the Broncos is the Broncos were struggling for quite a while until last year. So they're still going to be hungry. Parramatta have been up for so long, but they kept getting those week 2 or those week 3 or the week 2 exits for so long, or week 1. Obviously, in 2022, they went to a grand final, and that was the big difference. And it was like they were happy to achieve more. I think Brisbane they've been weak since 2019, essentially, when they got absolutely waddled by Parramatta.
Yeah, but
And
my comparison was
have
more
that
in
hunger.
the coaching staff and the mindset of the coaching staff. Just to back up what you were saying, that's where the difference is. It's from that leadership group as well.
There's an argument there with the coaching. Has it gone stale? Like, what's Brad Arthur been there for now?
Has
10
he lost
years?
the dressing room?
Has it not necessarily lost the dress? Like, I'd still believe the players really respect him, but it gets to a point for mine where you've just got to say, you know what? We really respect everything you've done. And everyone knows I've been a huge BA fan. I've really appreciated some of the things he's got us out of, some of the troubling seasons and troubling times. But it gets to a point where the ideas and stuff, like last year was really eye-opening for me because I was a massive BA fan. And like Adam mentioned, like I started to watch a team that had no answers for some reason, was a team that made the grand final the year before. So clearly we were one of the best teams in the competition, but we were playing like we were struggling, like we were a bottom 4 side. And for mine, that's why I've said it in the past already this year. If Wayne Bennett's available, I would be going so hard for him next year. It is not funny because I still believe strongly we have a team, give or take 1 or 2 signings that we could land next year if Wayne Bennett did come in, whether it's a head coaching role or whatever. If he's there at the club, we could become a premiership winning team. But we have to really operate quickly to achieve that.
You'd want Bellamy over Bennett.
Bellamy,
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely.
I don't think Bellamy would come though.
Money talks.
I don't think as much as what Money would talk with Bennett. I think Bellamy would be quite happy to just get settled down in Queensland, retire for even just a couple of years to refresh. He loves to be on the Gold Coast. Every time there's an off-season thing, he's straight away on the Gold Coast and just chill out. I don't think he would come to Parramatta.
He lives in Melbourne. Like Sydney's almost like the Gold Coast to them anyway.
And he is a Newcastle boy as well.
Yeah,
So,
but also, what I wouldn't be just dangling money. I'd be going, mate, you want to prove you're the best? Come and get Parramatta a premiership. No one else has been able to do it. So throw a shitload of money and play on his ego a bit. Give anything he wants. Like just make it happen. Anyway,
I've got another
can I
concern.
go now? Or what? No, you go.
Go.
No, go your last
Go.
concern. No. Go your
My
concern.
final concern.
You've been waiting so
is-
patiently, Michael.
I know.
Sorry, no, Micka, go. I feel bad.
No.
I'll just
You've
get
committed now.
too ready. All right.
Go your
My
last
last
concern.
final concern is the back line. Minus obviously Gutho and Penasini, I see a lot of weakness in our back line. I think they've been found out. Players like Simon.
What do you mean? You got Morgan Harper.
Morgan Hart, I don't even know what the hell the go is there. Like seriously, get a junior, bring a junior up or something. What don't get me started on that sign. That's just another waste. Another probably Brad Arthur clone that he thinks he can do something with and prove that he can bring up players, which he's already proved he can do. I don't think he needs to continue to try and prove that he can bring first graders in or reserve graders to first graders. But like Sevo for mine, Sevo is such a frustrating player to watch. He could be one of the best wingers in the comp if he actually put his foot down and looked like he wanted to be there. But for most of the year, the last 2 years or so, he has not looked like he wants to actually be there. Like he still looks like he doesn't know the game fully, which he's been there now for what, 4 or 5 years now. He's been around rugby league. Like he's had enough time now to fully develop as a rugby league winger. A lot of the tries he has scored, like people go, oh, look at his try scoring record. Okay. Like he's been set up a lot of those tries. Yeah. Like there's a lot of tries there that generally NRL wingers would score.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, and I haven't been to a game for a while, but you can hear it in the effects, Mike. Gutho is like an on-field. We talk about on-field coaches. He is literally just screaming at him almost every game still. And for mine, if you're a first grade player, if you need that, like it's not working. Where are we at with the back line? Because as I said, like I would have been targeting a strike center this year. Like we saw the Dolphins sign 2 centers. I would have loved Parra to go after either of those two, and I think they would have made us a much better side.
I think we spent too much of our cap, obviously, re-signing Moses and Brown. Look how much, and obviously they've got to leave something there. Hopwood's obviously re-signed in 24. They've got to leave something in regards to that as well. And Penasini, they've got quite a few players. I think Bailey Simonson, the fact he was only re-signed for a 1-year contract. So it was 1.5 years I do last year, something like that. But I think he's actually in for a big year in the centres. When he went to the centres originally, he was pretty good. It's kind of what we were like. We spoke about Bailey as a winger and Bailey as a centre being completely different players, but then they probably looked for him a bit too much. Kind of just gave him the ball. It kind of showed where our halves were at last year and where our attacking player was at last year. They gave him the ball and expected him to do stuff. I think given the preseason,
that's a centre's job, though.
It is, but we essentially had 2 of the same centres. You usually have a hard-hitting centre and you have a flashy centre. I just think giving him a preseason training in the centres, he's going to be a different player this year, and he's playing for a contract too.
Didn't he have that last year?
Don't get me started on Sevo. No, he was a winger last year. Started the year at winger was terrible, remember? Got dropped. Got dropped for Dunster, who come in and was equally terrible.
I'm still
coming back from that injury.
Yeah. I just want to ask quickly, Jez, and then Mick can have his rant. As an opposition fan, do you look at our back line and get scared?
No, I don't. I look at your halves, I look at your spine, and I get a bit worried. But no, not so much. I think the Parra podcast, what's his name? Troy. I think he made a pretty good point there around the size of wingers and in relation to Sevo. I think gone are the days of the barnstorming, running over the top of people. I think now you're more looking for those flashy finishes, those diving into the corners, those front flip, back flips, all those exciting things. But no, I don't. As an opposition fan, I look at that and I don't get as worried as I would with other teams.
Which is a really strange thing. I agree with it because, like I said, there's not so big games there. But you look at our backline, it's essentially the same backline that went to a grand final almost. And to say, people obviously
style
don't
of play,
those players.
You've gone away from that style of play, which was so effective.
Yeah, exactly right. So it comes back to coaching.
Yeah,
100%. Before Michael goes on his rant, I just want to quickly touch on one of the losses. I actually ran into Jake Arthur at, funny enough, the Newcastle Jets game on Saturday night. And I spent about 10 minutes talking to him where his best mate plays for the Jets. He travelled up.
He just moved a confidential chat?
No, not a confidential chat at all. I had a pretty open chat with him about footy and everything at Parramatta and stuff like that. And I was obviously one of the biggest people that bagged out the people for constantly giving it to Jake. I don't think we ever got to see the best of Jake due to the pressure that come from the fans. And we never really got to see him control the team. I don't think Jake's a future half anyway, but I can talk about that all night. I've said it before, but just talking to him, it seems like he was in a bad headspace when he was at Parramatta because of that pressure. And he openly said to me, he's just doing so much better now. He loves being at Manly. He's relaxed, looking forward to a potential Vegas trip. Now, the kid doesn't even know he's huge. May I add, he's got about this much on me. He's massive and hasn't filled out yet. Doesn't know where he's going to be playing his footy. Doesn't even know if he's going to be playing first grade this year. He has no idea what's going on at Manly. So he's turned up the preseason, loving being there. So I think that's a good thing to see. But one thing he did say to me is his dad has spent a lot of time in the off-season brewing over last year. And it's one of the reasons he actually left home and moved out to Manly. So I guess I've called Brad Arthur out in a way and said he needs to obviously come up with a better coaching style. It seems like he's doing that because it seems like he is taking a lot of the blame for last year.
Good.
Okay. That'd be good. Micka, go.
Well, I've even written notes to what you've all said because I've got.
I
so
saw you
much to
scribbling
say.
away there.
Yeah.
Who has a
First
pen
of
and
all-
paper in 2024? Do you think about the trees, please?
I do pen and paper still.
First of
Yeah.
all,
Whoops.
since you just spoke about Jake Arthur, I'm going to say I've never been more embarrassed to be a Parramatta fan as when our fans were carrying on so much about Jake Arthur. I thought it was absolutely ridiculous, and I thought the people that were leading all that need to take a good hard look at themselves. Now, other things I've got, the whole we were one game out of the 8 business, I think is an absolute cop-out. And I said that as soon as they started saying it last year.
But we were.
It is an absolute cop-out because we weren't one game short. We were many games short because we should have been a top 4 team. It's not about we lost one game here or one game there. That's garbage. We should have won the majority of our games and won them well if we were serious about our premiership run last year. It's that simple. And I will not accept any other poor excuse you come up with, Adam. It was insane to hear our coach say that at the end of the season. I almost died when I heard him say it. I thought that's absolutely ridiculous. So I actually you talk about teams that lose a grand final and go on to the next year and all that sort of stuff. The moment Parramatta lost that the moment we got to 18-0 in the grand final, I knew we
lost
wouldn't
the grand final 18-0.
Hey,
We
no,
did lose the grand final 18-0.
when it got to 18-0, I knew we were going to. That's it. Like that was the game over. We weren't coming back from it, and I knew that we wouldn't be in the grand final next year. And I don't think we'll be in the grand final for the next 3 years at least. Parramatta haven't been a team since the 80s that can go into 2 grand finals so close together. And I think last year showed we do have a good year. We think that's a good year, and we get there, and then we just turn off again. We're like, we sort of did what we needed to do. And I said to Kaylin, my daughter, when we were in the main street of Parramatta last year.
Named after Kalen Ponga.
Last grand final, she was having such a good time, and she's looking around as all the shops were done up. And I said, breathe it in, darling, because it could be 10 years before we're back again. And it's been about 10 years between all our grand finals. And at the moment, I can't really see it changing. So that's like my massive rant bit. Just some things I want to note about Parramatta last year. I saw a little stat that Moses and Brown only got 7 or 8 games together last year, which I think is a pretty big thing for any team, but for Parramatta especially. And then you take all that other stuff you've spoken about with Campbell Gillard and all that sort of Yahoo that went on the background with some other players and whatnot. I think a player that needs to step up for them this year is Junior Paulo. I think he's not worth the money he's on anymore unless he really, really has another good standout year. I know he's our captain and I know he's been great for us, but 900 grand is a lot of money to play for a forward who doesn't always bend the line anymore. He was probably the most disappointing thing for me last year. I'm Brad Arthur. I've been a big Arthur fan for a long time. My only issue is same as when you talk about Dylan Brown going to fullback. If you're going to replace Arthur, you need to find someone better. And at the moment, unless you can get Bellamy or maybe Bennett, I don't think there is anyone better. It's that simple. You don't get rid of someone for someone that's less. And as much as I hate to say it, because I just think we'll see another few years of the same sort of thing. Unless you can get someone better, I wouldn't be replacing him. So, and yes, Josh, I think Paulo should be on the bench behind Greg. I think Greg's ready to take that front row starting position and rip in, and then bring
My
Paulo
boy
on.
Wiramu. Wiramu.
I was about to say,
Absolutely.
we all agree on that one. We love Wiramu.
Yeah, my boy Blue.
On the back line, I was really, really disappointed with Hayes Dunster and how he's come back from his injury. I know it's probably not his fault, but when he first started, I thought he could have been the next Inu-like centre that we needed. I don't think Inu gets the credit he deserves for their run in 09. He was standing people up at will by the end of that year.
Yeah.
And I think Hayes
Freak.
really reminded me of him when he was younger. So I don't know. If he can get back to that form, that'd be great. I don't know. I guess the jury's still out on that one, but I always thought he could be the strike centre that we were missing because Penasini is like he'll be our centre for years. He's solid. He's good. I know he got a bit quiet at the end of last year, but he's 18 months previous to that in first grade for his age is, I think, been outstanding. I think his brother being injured
Can-
has also thrown a spanner in the works.
Jimmy Dick Penis in here.
Yeah, that's the one. Dick Penis.
What a
What's
name.
going on with these parents? My God.
Before you move on
One
too
thing-
much,
one
Micka,
thing
can I
on
just
their
stop you?
Yes, please.
I want to raise one more point when it comes to Brad Arthur. He said if there's not someone better. I want to ask you all this question, and it's something I've thought about the last couple of days. When I sit back and look at things, I really question the club's recruitment over the last, I'd say, 2 years at least. I think it's been some really questionable decisions there. Players that simply just have not worked. Players we've lost. Like I know Adam hasn't been a fan of Reid Marnie, but I'll still argue from what we've had since Reid Marnie has left, I would love Reid still at the club. Papali'i, we know that money was sort of an issue there. Would have still loved him to be at the Eels. If we're putting so much money into some of these prop forwards and like Junior, for instance, yes, at the time he was doing a remarkable job, but there's got to be people starting to get held accountable at the club for making these decisions because it's not putting us into any sort of good stead. I'd say, like we're looking at the backline saying, I'd say it's one of the weakest backlines in the competition, if I'm being brutally honest. There's got to be people there held accountable for that. Is it the coach? Is it the CEO? I'd argue we're quite weak when it comes to the front of house at the club.
We're not where we used to be, though. We're an absolute basket case in those wooden
Yeah.
spoon years. But you've got to look to the future as well. And it's one thing to say, you know, we should have kept Reid, blah, 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 blah. The players haven't obviously produced last year. I know Hodgson was a dud signing, but he was cheap and he was available. And it was set as a development there to obviously bring through Hands and bring through Matt Arthur. The move to bring Lussick back was a desperation one that didn't make much sense to me. I'm not going to bag him out because he's going to have his first full NRL preseason. We'll see how he goes. But you've got to think that last year, Parramatta has always been one of those clubs that can develop their juniors and then piss them off elsewhere, and half of them don't break through. We've got to keep some cap space available for this SG ball team that come through and obviously won the comp last year. It's as simple as that. We have to, because you've got some good young centers coming through, some good young hookers, there's two really good halves coming through. There's a couple of really good second rowers, and you don't want them to end up elsewhere. And you look at the off-contract list, you got Ogden there. Macatella could be gone already if he's not going to be gone early on. You know, Paulo, I agree. This is a year. Paulo doesn't perform, we ship him off. He's gone. And someone like the Tigers or something will snap him up for sure. You've got to... The cap takes up so much importance.
You don't want to fall into the Tamalolo sort of conundrum where you've signed a bloke when he's in the peak form. So like Junior Paulo, I'm assuming when he got that contract was after he had that standout year where he was bending the line backwards. He was a monster in Origin. Everyone loved when he had the ball tucked under his arm and ran through people. But last year, he was dreadful. And we gave him a lot of feedback, I might say, last year when we were doing our reviews of the games. And he was a name that was brought out every time around he's not playing to his potential. He seems like a bit of dead weight at the moment. Like, what is happening there? So is it what am I trying to say? Is it the recruitment person or the CEO or the coach who is saying, righto, let's throw all this money at them, sign them on their best year, and then that has those knock-on effects where you run the gamble of can they consistently do it for years and years to come? And it seems like Junior Paulo was a gamble that didn't work out the way that you wanted it to.
No,
It's hard to say because he's only had one bad
Gamble's
year.
a loose word, like a loose term.
But well, off the back of 2022, where he played, as Josh said, he's had to play too many minutes last year in 2022. But he also went on to a World Cup run with Samoa and played some pretty big minutes in that. So obviously his preseason was affected after that. And then last year, plus boxing, plus Origin, and then last year playing Origin. I hope Junior doesn't get, I don't think he will. I hope he doesn't get picked for Origin this year. Because I feel like his concentration, if he's just concentrating on Parramatta, obviously coming off a proper preseason and stuff as well, there's no excuses if he doesn't obviously aim up this year.
I think he can do it.
It's another reason why I question Brad Arthur, though, because he should be on top of that. He should have been speaking to him last year and saying, I know you've had a massive year in 2022. we need to look after you better. We need to either start you off the bench for some games and vice versa. Same with teams like Penrith. Ivan Cleary doesn't care who's in or out. If he wants to make a call and say Martin needs to have a rest, he'll make Liam Martin have a rest. He doesn't give a shit who's in or out. He'll just go, it's best for us moving forward. And
we didn't have that option last year. Like,
No.
you got to look at it. Campbell
Once
Gillard
Greg
was
got-
suspended. And then
Greg was
Greg got injured. Once Greg hit form, he got injured. And then we never had all three of them to be able to bring the minutes down. And I think that was one of obviously the most disappointing things at what could have been in regards to those three players. We finally got
turned into
another
a
front
cardi
rower.
party.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
Yeah.
Cartwright was brilliant last year, but he never gets a chance if Lane doesn't get the injuries and Madison doesn't take his suspensions. You know,
I think
you look
someone-
at those three as well, which affected Dylan Brown's game when he was on the field. So
I think the coach just needs to talk to Paul and go, stop with the ball playing, put it under your arm and run. Like, they just need to simplify his game a bit again. I think he's trying too much to be a ball player, trying to replicate some other team styles, which isn't working for him, which probably goes off the fact that they don't have Reed's ridiculously long pass out of hooker anymore to get him so wide so early.
but you don't obviously know too, with Hopgood coming in the team last year, his first season, he took that junior role from the previous years of being able to ball play. And that's why it was so noticeable what Junior was doing, because you had both of them doing the same thing. The difference with Hopgood was Hopgood knew when to run it. It's like Junior didn't want the contact last year. He was really feeling the effects of something.
I'd agree with that.
Questionably, he played too many minutes as well. I think he's even said it himself in an interview I heard. Jez has got the weird emoticons coming back. It must be that time of night.
Didn't even mean to.
But yeah, let's move on because we do have one more team, and we're going to turn the loyal listeners. This is what me and Jesse go through on a weekly basis with Supercoach. We go into the 2-hour mark and it gets big. But let's give our ratings and rankings for the Eels. So obviously, I'll start with Jez. You can start us off. You can have your right of reply
9.
after getting bashed.
Morgan Harper. That's huge. So you've got a 9. Let's go off 5. And it's purely because of your re-signings, like Dylan Brown, Mitch Moses, locking those guys in. Wiramu Greg. We love Wiramu Greg. And I'm excited to see the role that Brandon Hands does play this year, because I think there's something that could be very special in that combination of the hookers coming on and off there. So what did I say? 6?
Yep.
5.
Sure.
No, he said 6.
You said 5. Oh. And where do you see us finishing?
Well, I'm just looking back at all my other placings, and I've only got a spot for you 13 to 17. So I'll go 5 to 8. You'll be in the 8. If you pull your finger out, you could even be top 4.
Micka?
Before I saw the re-signing list, I was going to give us a 2 because our gains and losses, I know we had to let some of the players we let go were really good to let go of, Wonga Blake, but like Morgan Harbour, and that was it. I was ready to give us a 2, but the re-signings are actually really good. As you said, Greg, Cartwright, Brown, Moses, Penasini. Sean Russell doesn't get thrown around a lot. I think I saw the other day he's put a bit of weight on. I think he'll be really good this season again. So I'm going to go.
Tested the off season.
Yeah, I'm going to go. What do I give the others? 6. I'll give us a 7.
Just can't hear you over your bottle lids there.
Tapping. Yeah.
My bad. I'll give
7.
us a 7.
Love it. Where are you finishing?
Where are we finishing?
7th or 8th.
So that's in the 5th to 8th.
Right,
That would be the 5 to 8 range.
It will be, yeah. But I'm more accurate than that. I'm going the bottom of the 5 to 8 range.
Adam?
Yeah, look, this one's obviously easy to rate knowing some of the background stuff. There was all that talk last year about the X Factor player and stuff like that. I'm going to give us a higher rating based on the fact that we didn't rush in to sign someone out of desperation, which we've done before. I feel like Parramatta's waited till next year. They've got some money in the salary cap to either see what kind of good kids come through or make a big play at one of the off-coming players at the end of this year. So I'm going to give him a 7.5 just because of the losses as well. I think a lot of those losses are great. They've moved on some of those players and the re-signings as well. The gains, once again, their depth, besides Tuolagi, who they believe will somehow break into first grade eventually. But Harper's there as a depth as well. So Yeah, I did. That was last year though. That's not this year. That was last year. I'm talking, and he wasn't. He wasn't a big spending. I'm talking. They didn't rush off to sign. There wasn't much available last year. End of last year. That's
If
what I'm
there was,
saying.
we would have bought it.
Yeah, but no, that's not that. Like I said, there was so much talk on this X Factor, and they looked around. They couldn't find anyone. Like, you look at the end of this year, you got someone like Joseph Manu potentially coming on the market. Would you have a crack at him? But you can say we won't get him, but would you have a crack at him? 100% you would.
Yes.
They're going to be in a position to do that.
Every club will.
Exactly right, but we're going to be in a good position to do it. If we went off and signed someone shit, or three or four shit depth players and put them on 2-year contracts, we wouldn't be in that position. And it also gives us opportunity with, well, obviously Dick Penasini's injured his ACL, so he's out. But what's the other one coming through? The other centre. Fuck, his name's escaped me.
Blaze.
You got Blaze coming through as well. I know they see him centre wing, half body, whatever he can play.
Laser.
Yeah. We've got so many good young ones coming through that could obviously take that step this year. So that's why I'm giving it that. As for the prediction, I've done a bit of research, and the research is all in my head. Parramatta don't really in the Brad Arthur era, obviously after that rebuilding time, they don't produce back-to-back disappointing years. So obviously 2017 finals, 2018 wooden spoon. Sorry, 2017 1-4, 2018 wooden spoon, 2019 fifth, 2020 1-4, 2021 5-8, 2022 1-4. All right. So
We need this years. We don't care about
Premiership
10 years ago.
We need playoff
zero.
well, you look at the pattern last year.
We're already up to an
Yes.
hour and a half.
1-4.
1-4. All
Oh,
right.
thank you.
Based on that
Guys,
pattern.
I'll be quick after Adam just took everyone's time for his explanation of both. 6.5 for actually no 6. Sorry, 6 for the gains, losses, and retention.
Up the
There's actually some
wires.
players that we re-signed that
He's
I wasn't
gone.
too happy. He's gone. He's had enough. Micka, see you later. There's actually a few re-signs that I actually wouldn't have made personally. I would have freed up some cash and gone after players elsewhere. But anyway, and I think our finishing will be 5th to 8th.